We'll start with this. There's a big story out. Bob McGinn wrote for, newspapers in Wisconsin and Green Bay for like 4 decades. Now he's at The Athletic, which is a great landing spot for a lot of these young and old writers. Bob McGinn is not a clickbait guy. He doesn't do media. We invited him on the show today. He's not a guy that does a bunch of media. He's not looking for attention. He's very covert. He really just does, he writes columns and that's it. But of course, if you criticize, Packer fans are a very strange group. If you ever criticize Aaron Rodgers, Aaron's the victim. We're just picking on Aaron. Nobody ever picks on Drew Brees. Nobody ever picks on Tom Brady. Aaron's the one quarterback in the league everybody's just picking on. Anyway, Bob McGinn says in his column this week about the Packers draft, public niceties aside, my sense is Matt LaFleur, the new coach, fresh from a terrific 13-3 baptismal season, simply had enough of Rodgers' act and wanted to change the narrative. With a first-round talent on the roster, the Packers would gain leverage with their imperial quarterback and his passive-aggressive style. If the Packers do indeed want to become a running team next year, they surely wouldn't want Rodgers rocking the boat and becoming even more difficult to coach. So the point being, he calls him imperial. I doubt he's just making this up. It's his opinion, and Bob McGinn is certainly more qualified than any Packer fan to have an opinion. But I went last night and I went on Twitter to watch it, and what a shock. Whoever criticizes Aaron Rodgers, that's who the Packer fans attack. His brother criticized Aaron Rodgers. He's a loser. His dad criticized him. He just sponging off him. Bob McGinn is a nobody. Coach Greg Jennings, he's a bitter. It's always blame the messenger. Ask yourself this in life. Why doesn't this criticism happen to other quarterbacks? Why? Are we just picking on Aaron? Nobody's picking. Russell Wilson had one article written about him. That's it. Everybody else likes him. Everybody likes Tom. Everybody likes Matt Ryan. Everybody likes Breeze. I don't see these articles about Jared Goff. I don't see these. I mean, it's like, do you think we're making stuff up with Baker Mayfield, or Baker Mayfield's got lousy judgment? Do you think we're making stuff up about Aaron Rodgers, or maybe he's passive-aggressive and prickly and difficult to get along with and has a big ego? Why would we pick on Baker Mayfield? He's in Cleveland. It's not like it's a really important franchise. Why would we pick on Aaron Rodgers? Everybody likes Green Bay. Green Bay is the small town underdog. Green Bay's one of those cities, one of those teams like the Saints and the Packers. They're kind of like America likes them. America can hate the Raiders. America can hate the New York teams and the Philadelphia teams and the Patriots. Everybody likes Green Bay. So why nobody picked on Favre all the time? Why are we picking on Aaron Rodgers? You'll meet people like this in life. Somebody's watching my show right now, and he has a much more successful brother than him or more successful sister, and instead of blaming himself, he's the victim. Mom gave them they've been very lucky. They got certain breaks. Certain people want to play the victim, and Packer fans always blame the messenger. Aaron's a victim. In fact, I saw this come out yesterday. This was ridiculous. So there was this graphic that made it all over the internet yesterday. Touchdown passes to first-round draft picks. Aaron's only had one in his career, as if first-round draft picks are everything. Pete Carroll's butchered half his first-round draft picks. He's a legend drafting. Why? What he does in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round. So, first of all, this is deceptive. The Packers did not have a first-round pick when they drafted Jordy Nelson. They took Jordy Nelson top of the second, 36th, and he had 70 touchdowns with Green Bay. So that would have put Aaron closer to the middle of this mix. Also, has Russell Wilson had great support? Offensive line support? No. Great wide receiver, first-round pick support? No. Nobody complains. Russell Wilson doesn't complain about it. Nobody has to defend Russell Wilson. He just makes it work. So, in my opinion, nobody in life is always a victim. Nobody gets talked about this like Aaron Rodgers. If you think Aaron's just a victim of Bob McGinn and a victim of Greg Jennings and a victim of Mike McCarthy, he's just a victim, I can't help you, because I don't think people are victims. I think your reputation over the course of 20, 30, 15, 10, 5 years in any industry is... Jay Cutler had a reputation, is difficult. He just got divorced. I don't like to hear that, but he's difficult. He was difficult before that. He's difficult. People I know Jay Cutler and like him and say, he's just a pain in the butt. Jay's a pain in the butt. Jeff George, a pain in the butt. I mean, I've known people who know him. Jason Whitlock defends him, knows him. So, Aaron's a pain in the butt. He's prickly. He can be arrogant. He's passive-aggressive. He's an eye roller. He's a finger pointer. Nobody's just picking on him. And by the way, if first-round wide receivers guaranteed success, then the Detroit Lions would be the Patriots. Because they drafted a first-round receiver at one point not long ago, 3 years in a row. Since when has that been the tipping point on success? They don't draft first-round wide receivers. Well, they do. It just so happens Marvin Harrison went in the first round of Peyton Manning, was great, so Peyton's got a zillion touchdown passes to a first-round quarterback. Marvin Harrison accounts for more than half those, I'm sure. Okay, let's start with this. Bob McGinn, very respected writer. Very respected. He's worked for almost 4 decades in many prized institutions of writing. He said Matt LaFleur, he suggested, has had enough of Rodgers, and that's why they got Jordan Love. What did you make of that comment?
Well, listen, you're right. McGinn is as plugged into the Packers as any writer is plugged in with any team. He's obviously getting this from very informed sources. The front office coaching staff's obviously talking to Bob McGinn. So what I made of it is, who the hell do these people in Green Bay think they are? Like, honestly, like what exactly do they think they do around there? The new GM, Brian Gutekunst, who his first decision he made as general manager of the team was had a first-round pick. Derwin James is on the board, and he's like, let's trade out of this pick. Who could use a future Hall of Famer safety? Only so the next year they had to trade up in the draft to draft a safety? Or Matt LaFleur, who's bathed himself in such glory. He was the offensive coordinator for the 10th-ranked offense with the Rams. He left, and they became the 2nd-ranked offense. Then he goes to Tennessee. He coordinates the 25th-ranked offense in football. He leaves, they become the 12th-ranked offense. Then he goes to Green Bay, and for the first time in forever, they have a below-average offense. Those people think, they're sick of tolerating Aaron Rodgers. I'd love to hear the leaked story in the media trade of how Tui and Pagan are sick of dealing with Colin Cowherd. Give me a break. And the folks, they're like, oh, he's moody, he's passive-aggressive. To quote Tom Draper once again, that's what the money's for, guys, to make him feel good and to deal with it. Yeah. I know we feel differently about this because you called me this weekend to discuss it, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, Colin, because I do love you and because we are such close friends. I totally sandbagged during that conversation. I let you think I might kind of agree with you only because I wanted to do this on the radio. So I saved our actual personal conversation. I set it aside. But this is ridiculous, and Rodgers should be furious.
All right. You make good, valid points. Let me support. Everybody's bagging on Philadelphia drafting Jalen Hurts, and my takeaway is it's a Super Bowl bubble roster. They're in that 8-9 teams, and Carson Wentz can't finish the season. As much as I love him, I think he has the second-best arm in the league, honestly, to Patrick Mahomes. But I think it makes sense when you have a very good team. This is why RG3 is behind Lamar. You find a stylistically somewhat similar player. Jets went out and got a Sam Darnold clone from a school nobody watches play, but he's very much plays like Darnold. So Jalen Hurts is going to play this year. I think he's probably better than we all think as a pro prospect. It didn't bother me at all. Did it bother you?
No, it doesn't bother me at all. I didn't love Doug Peterson coming out and being like, let me make this clear. Carson's our starting quarterback, because he didn't need to say that. Yeah. When FS1 hired me, and then you would take vacation and I would fill in. No one sent a press release. Let me make this clear. Nick Wright's not replacing Colin Cowherd. Nobody thought I was. But if that press release came out, you might be like, well, why did you even need to say that?
Yeah,
Is there something I don't know here? But I actually think Jalen Hurts might be the first player drafted because of Taysom Hill. I don't buy Taysom Hill as a starting NFL quarterback at all. He's completed 7 passes in his career. But he is a valuable weapon. And for the team that goes for more fourth-down conversions than any team in the league, and for the team that goes for more two-point conversions than any team in the league, Jalen Hurts absolutely can get on the field and help you right now even if Carson Wentz is healthy for all 16 games. So I like the pick a lot, actually, and I think it gives him a chance to develop, and we'll see if in 3 years maybe he is a viable starting quarterback, but in the meantime, he'll get on the field. Unlike, of course, the guy the Packers draft, who they hope never sees the field for 2 years, unless they decide they're just sick of tolerating Aaron Rodgers.
Let's shift to basketball, the last dance. So I said yesterday, the Pistons are viewed as they should be viewed. Muhammad Ali was handsome and great and glamorous and classy, and that's how he's viewed. Larry Holmes was a heavyweight champ, but the rest of it, he wasn't. That's how he's viewed. And if you do a doc on Larry Holmes, it doesn't portray him like it portrays Muhammad Ali and his greatness and his global touch. I think if you look back in history, the Pistons come off bad because I don't think they were good for the league. They were inartistic, they tackled people, and they lacked class when they eventually lost the crown. You don't like how they're being portrayed, I'm told.
Well, listen, it's a 10-hour documentary, and so you would think you would have time to tell the whole story, but I guess, I don't know. Listen, I've never made a film. The doc goes from Jordan's 63-point game against the Celtics and then immediately goes to the Scottie Pippen migraine game, the Game 7 loss to the Pistons, which is interesting because it skipped the year after the 63-point game when he got swept by the Celtics, the year after that when the Pistons whooped them, and the year after that when the Pistons whooped them too. But I guess, listen, if Jordan's got some creative control, they can't include that full story of his career in the doc. But that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is this. I didn't like the fact that, listen, nobody likes Isaiah Thomas but me, evidently. Maybe he's rubbed people the wrong way, and I get it. Generation X needs safe spaces, and if people don't shake their hands, they're going to go cry and things like that. Us millennials were tougher. We were brought up harder, so we wouldn't have been so upset about a missed handshake 30 years later. But that Pistons team, Colin, could have won 4 consecutive titles. They should have won 3 consecutive titles if they didn't get hosed on a foul call on Bill Laimbeer in the 88 finals. And I don't think Isaiah gets the respect he deserves, that he did beat Magic, he did beat Bird, he did beat Jordan repeatedly, and he did it without another top 50 player on his roster. He did it without another all-time great offensive player anywhere around him. And so, I understand it's the Jordan doc, so they're going to focus on that part of the story. I just think that those Pistons teams, especially in the late 80s before they got old, were just all-time good.
Well, I think I don't think they've aged well because I think they were so much about toughness and if you just change, if they had today's rules, they would just be an average team because they didn't have a lot of shooters. To your point, Isaiah was their only truly gifted offensive player. I think that they're like the Baltimore Ravens with Ray Lewis and Trent Dilfer. They would not age well. Because you couldn't grab wide receivers. But given the rules that the NBA allowed with the Pistons and the NFL allowed with those Ravens defenses, they were great in their moment.
They were unbelievable. And one other thing that I did really like about the doc, these last 2 episodes, was it showed you in the shot against Cleveland. It reminded you that Ron Harper was on the Cavs and maybe should have been guarding Jordan. And then they talk about Dennis Rodman being on the Pistons and being such a great defender. And maybe they'll, investigate this in the next 6 episodes. It's so interesting because Ron Harper then ended up playing with Jordan and Rodman then ended up playing with Jordan. And I just remember being told that these guys would never team up with their rivals. It's just this new thing. It's young guys. And yet all these guys, they end up on the Bulls. I'm very fascinated to see how it plays out.
It's frankly, folks, if Nick drives you crazy, it is the mythology of now players are just joining forces. Yeah, Michael ended up with the best Euro, Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman, the best coach. Yeah, it's funny how it works.
It's interesting. And load management, by the way, is something only soft young players do. Hey, Dennis, you back from Vegas yet? You good, bro? I don't know. That seemed to happen 30 years ago, but what do I know?
My buddy Nick Wright, good talking to you, my man.